what do you think? Would this make a good like car ad? I think Ferrari wanted this as a conclusion. No,
I've heard recently that Ferrari has started to ban people from being allowed to buy their cars.
Oh yeah, Bieber got banned, right?
Yeah, they're taking objection to the way that certain people act, and I think after watching this movie, Cameron Diaz would definitely be banned from buying a Ferrari.
Should have banned everyone who made this movie. Ridley Scott, the screenwriter, whoever was in charge of acquiring cars for the movie.
Yeah,
ban them all.
They're all banned. No Ferraris for them.
I don't even know. How do you even think of something like that?
How do you come up with a sex scene involving a woman in a windshield?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, Cormac McCarthy. How do you come up with that?
Is that the writer of
Yeah,
this?
man. Cormac McCarthy wrote this screenplay and just fucking... All I know is I will never look at a car the same way again. That's just it. Welcome to Bad Movies and Beer. I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And today, by special request, we are talking about The Counselor. Ridley Scott's star-studded what the fuck of a movie. It's just so weird.
Yeah, I really thought this was going to be sort of like a court drama.
Sounds like it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The
Harrison Ford
here,
has to like defend some kid or something. I don't know. Yeah, no, this is not that.
Yeah, the naming convention here did not fit. It is really a cartel and drug kind of movie.
Yeah. With just a huge amount of infused sexuality.
It seems very...
Excess? Is it a commentary on excess?
Maybe. It seems very existential, right? Like it seems like we're trying to get a lot of comments on the way people live, and it almost seems, and we'll talk about this more, that there's an argument here for going back to your like animal instincts.
Bottom line, I don't know what it means. It was not what I expected, and I'm sure the person who requested it felt the same way. We actually have the story behind this. This was requested by our good friend Brian. He took his now wife to see this before they were married in theaters, and that must have just made for a very awkward drive home, I would imagine.
My understanding is that he had to fight to go see this. She wanted to see a different movie.
Oh, no.
And he really fought for it. He said, look at the cast,
Yeah.
look at the director.
Involved,
This thing
yeah.
is going to be great. Only for it to open with some cunnilingus and to...
It escalates from there, as we said.
Have a woman have sex with a windshield. There's so much in this that would have made someone probably cringe on an early date with their future partner.
I mean, she still married him, so it must not have done irreparable damage, but he probably wasn't allowed to pick movies for a while after that.
Yeah, I was going to say, he got a year ban from movie choices, I think, for sure.
God damn.
I think he was saying to us that at the end of the movie, the whole audience was just sort of in a collective what the fuck moment, which is hilarious. I love it when you're in a theater with a whole bunch of people and you're having the same reactions. It makes the best comedies, right? When that kind of stuff, but it also makes horror and all those other movies. But it's hilarious that there was a collective, like, what the fuck did we just watch?
Well, what you're describing is exactly why I hope that theaters never go away, because, there's a big push for like everything's streaming now. You can watch stuff from your home, but the communal experience of going to a theater and having the reactions and like connecting with strangers in that way, it really adds to the experience, at least for me. I don't know about,
No, I think absolutely. I think part of this podcast that's really enjoyable is getting to watch these ridiculous movies together, because our reactions probably influence the way that we feel about those movies too, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Theaters forever, physical media forever. And,
I love that PSA.
Brian and his wife forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they can survive the Counselor, they can survive anything. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to drink some beer while we do. Every week we try and find a beer that pairs with the movie. And what do we have this week, Noel?
So this one's going to be a little hard for people to understand. It'll be clearer as we go through the movie, but we're going to be drinking Cheetah.
Cheetah beer.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've ever had Cheetah beer or not. I have almost only ever had it when I go to an Indian restaurant.
Yeah, I thought it was an Indian beer, but it's not? Apparently?
No, it's not. So it's actually a Canadian company, but they designed the beer to be drank with spicy food. So the goal was to make a beer that was delicious to go with eating spicy food. And in particular, their thought was that it would go with Indian food. So we got two of them here today, which is even more exciting than one. We've got the traditional lager, and then we also have a mango lager that we're gonna see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to drinking this again. I've definitely had the traditional Cheetah before.
I never have. This is a new one for me.
So it's the first drink for you. So we're gonna see. And you are kind of our lager connoisseur, so I'm interested
very excited.
to see your opinion on this, and I'm excited to try that mango one, which I haven't. But let's get into this one.
Sure, why not? So we open with the shot of some windmills just outside of El Paso, Texas. A motorcycle races by, and from there we meet the counselor. It's Michael Fassbender, and he's in bed with Penelope Cruz. We can't tell it's them right away, though, because they're hidden under the sheets, like completely under. We just see these kind of like white, curvy outlines. It looks kind of like two ghosts fighting.
It's definitely an attempt to create something artistic here because the camera kind of comes in from a blowing curtain in a window, right? They're trying to set the tone really quickly as one of very artsy and erotic.
Oh, yeah. Now, he's rocking an American accent for this movie for some reason, and he wants to use it for some dirty talk. He asks her what she wants him to do, and she basically tells him to mow. But then when he goes to, she's like,
Wait. I think I should go tidy up.
I don't want you to.
he's nasty. Also, who wrote this script? I mean, it's Cormac McCarthy. We know that now, but that was my thought at the time was like, who wrote this? This is terrible.
How is this happening? The interchange between them is really bad. Like, there's a lot of attempts to get real sexy, and we're going to get him going down on her and get some moaning in a second. But he makes, like, a weird, crude, like, her pussy's wet joke.
Oh, yeah. Sopping is the phrase he uses.
Yeah, and you're just sort of like...
He's like, how did that happen? I'm like, what's happening here? Why are we watching this? So we're like 3 minutes into this movie. At what point do you think Brian started getting nervous?
This point, it did not take long for him to be like, God, what the fuck have I done?
What are we into here?
I guarantee there were moments during this scene, for sure, where he and his partner both had their hands covering their eyes.
Or just like staring straight ahead, not looking at each other.
Oh, yeah, no conversation for sure. Or maybe one of them was staring with...
What movie is this? Yeah.
Well, oh, my goodness. I'm pretty sure at the end of this scene, she says that he has ruined lovemaking for her and any other person.
It's the highest compliment you can receive from a lover. Yeah. From there, we are into the credits, and all I could think of looking at this cast was A, how the hell did Ridley Scott manage to fuck this up? And B, how many agents got fired because of this movie? Over, under 2.5. What do you think?
Oh, definitely over.
All right.
Definitely over. Unless they share an agent.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, they probably would have all fired that one agent. Someone who was behind the creation of this definitely ate a lot of shit, I'm sure.
Sure. Now, this is also where we get our first cheetah sighting, as one inexplicably runs alongside a woman on horseback, but doesn't attack her or the horse. And I was like, is this a pet cheetah? Short answer, yes. We're 5 minutes into this thing, and I'm already wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah, shit's pretty confusing here, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of a choppy introduction to all the characters who we're going to meet throughout this film. We also cut in between the introductions of these people to a truck being filled with shit.
Yeah, literal shit.
Yeah.
But also figurative shit. That's how they smuggle the drugs. There's drugs coming.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's at this point that I'm like, we've already been given signs that we're on like an American-Mexican border. Now we're seeing a drug truck. This is not about courtroom drama.
It's not a courtroom drama, no.
It's about where it's clicking in for me.
Yeah, so after the credits wrap up, we zero in on Javier Bardem, who mixes a couple of martinis for himself and Cameron Diaz while they take in the beautiful sunset with their 2 pet cheetahs. That's right, I guess they bought a pair. It was like a discount or something, I don't know. So appropriate that we're drinking not 1 but 2 cheetah beers now.
Although it didn't make sense probably to people why we were drinking cheetah beer with the Counselor movie. If you see it, it definitely does. 2 cheetahs.
Oh, and there's not the last 2 we're going to see. There's more. There's so many cheetah references. She's lost in thought about someone from her past, but she makes it clear that she doesn't miss them because missing something means hoping it'll come back. Javier Bardem says,
You don't think that's a bit cold?
I think truth has no temperature.
You think Cormac McCarthy high-fived himself on that one, or what?
Oh, my God. I think there are several moments in this movie where Cormac McCarthy was just himself off, thinking he has done the best job. Yeah. And he didn't. Like, it's brutal. They're very clear to also show you in this scene, like the clothing that Cameron Diaz is wearing.
And her tattoo.
Reveals a cheetah tattoo.
Cheetah print tattoo running along her body. This kind of felt like a breakup scene to me, but I guess she was just showing him who's got the bigger dick.
Yeah, her character is, I mean, obviously they're trying to depict her as cold and sort of like cunning, and that's happening really quickly in this film. They're showing her being very much about seeking her own desire and pleasure.
Yeah, it's about her gratification. From there, we're off to Amsterdam, where Michael Fassbender meets with an elderly diamond merchant. He's there to buy an engagement ring, and we're there to learn about the history of diamond grading. We get fucking like 5 minutes on what the different cuts are and stuff. I was like, God damn, man. Like,
it was strange, too, because they didn't, like, it was clear that they had a relationship. like they knew each other. But we don't know much about the counselor or anything that's happening, right? Like
We never even learned his name. They just call him the counselor the whole time.
yeah, so we're trying to figure out why does this guy know about diamonds, and we've seen like there's some drug shipping stuff, and so maybe they're trying to show you a little bit that he might have a bit of a shady past.
Well, he doesn't know anything about diamonds, though. The guy's telling him, he's asking all these questions about diamonds. Although he does kind of seem like he knows more than he's letting on.
Yeah, and he knows this guy. Like you don't travel to Amsterdam to talk to your guy unless you've like dealt with him or had kind of relationship before, I think.
No, definitely. Once he presumably finishes his business there, he's off to a meeting at Javier Bardem's place. The two of them are cooking up something illegal, and it sounds awfully risky, but we don't get the details until after Javier Bardem tells him all about how women work. They get down to business here, and Javier Bardem explains to him that going down this road will have severe consequences if something goes wrong. He even outlines a particular type of murder device called the bolito that, presumably, could end up around the counselor's neck if he doesn't come through. Imagine if he had actually talked about it here and there was just no movie. Like, wouldn't that be in a way better?
There is a lot of foreshadowing in this movie. Like just an extreme amount,
dude, yeah.
to a obnoxious amount, actually. There were points in this movie that I was literally like groaning or yelling at the screen because so much of what is said in these long-winded conversations that are, in my opinion, not very well written, that come true, right? And so you know when he's talking about this device, right? This sort of murder device that the cartels use, that we're going to see something coming up.
This is the Chekhov's gun of this movie.
And then also the conversations about women.
I was going to ask you, how did you feel about his depiction of women?
It was almost so dry and boring that it was more of one of those things that I just rolled my eyes at the screen. I didn't even like... I didn't get on my kind of, what do they call it when you stand at soapbox? I didn't get on my high horse or my soapbox. I just sort of rolled my eyes excessively at screen while this was happening. Because, there's some real bullshit conversations.
Yeah, I thought you wouldn't like that part. No.
They're garbage. His style, the way they make him look in this movie.
Bardem?
Yeah, is pretty hilarious. Like,
I like it. Listen, we're gonna get into this later, but he's got something. He's got like a charisma, and I really dig it.
He's really, really all in. He's got this like hilarious spiky hair.
He's blown back hairstyle. Yeah. Flashy clothes.
Yeah, and flashy place. Right?
Tanned as fuck. He's so tan. Yeah.
There's always a party around him in his house when they're meeting too.
That's what you do when you're crazy rich.
I guess when you're just sort of in a drug trade and you run clubs, that's sort of what you do. But it was interesting. Like it was funny to see that character, right?
Fun to meet him for sure. Now it's time for a dinner date at a restaurant that for some reason also has a cheetah in it. There's a fucking live cheetah just sitting there on like a podium in this restaurant. Are cheetahs like abundant along the US-Mexico border or something? Where are they fucking coming from?
I was really confused why the cheetah was at this restaurant.
Yes.
Like, to me, that scene where they had the cheetahs and they were there together just made them seem like wealthy people who have like
exotic pets.
Yeah. But with it at the restaurant, I don't understand. Right. And I mean, I think again, it's just more foreshadowing. I really think they were just trying to work in as much cheetah reference as possible as we get towards the end, or what I assume to be the message of this film.
Right? Oh, I agree for sure. Now the counselor pops the question here, and is it my imagination or is he coming off really creepy? Like he calls her a glory, which she also finds weird. I don't know, man. Something about Fassbender here. I don't know.
It's a really, really lame proposal for someone who has all kinds of money and wealth and other things, and if they bring each other that much joy, it was a strange kind of muted and not very effective conversation.
Unlike the conversation that she has the next day with Cameron Diaz, who comes off like more than a little bit intimidating. Cameron Diaz here kind of pushes her around. And does she have a gold tooth? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And it's like bejeweled or something? This is so fucking weird.
Her character in this movie, I think she probably had a lot of fun playing this role.
Well, why not?
Right?
Sure.
Like she got to lean in really hard to this like very extreme woman. She was definitely intentionally trying to make Penelope Cruz uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. We learn in this scene that Penelope Cruz is kind of a like conservative-ish, raised in the church kind of woman.
Yeah, they are not the same species, and I use that term literally.
Yeah, and it fits with sort of what's going on here. And then she starts prodding her about sex, and then she starts talking about what she tells the priest when she goes to confession.
Yeah, which we get a little taste of that later too. My God. Hey, guess what? That highly illegal and extremely dangerous business deal from earlier turns out it's a drug deal, like we said, and the counselor is in. Basically, he's going to get the drugs across the border where they will be sold for a huge profit, and Brad Pitt is going to help him do it. Nice to see Brad Pitt playing a cool guy for once. It's a good departure from what he normally does.
Yeah. This is funny where he is definitely leaning into this sort of like sleazy business person character. He's fairly like cowboy-esque, and like traditional Brad Pitt, he really leans into it.
It's the same role he plays in everything.
Yeah.
He's just doing Brad Pitt stuff.
And it almost felt to me like a lot of the conversations in this movie fit with just things that Brad Pitt does in movies. Like,
yes.
It almost felt like they had a movie where they wanted Brad Pitt to be a sleazy businessman,
and
then just wrote everything else around it.
Or they were like, Brad, how do you want to say these lines? What do you want the lines to be? It's
Yeah,
just him. Yeah.
Well, and the movie is kind of choppy. It's in lots of different places. They're sort of piecing together what's happening at this point. And already I'm kind of like, this is a really bad attempt at trying to make a thoughtful movie.
Oh, they're trying so hard for that. Yeah.
Just trying so hard. I'm getting the feeling like they have some other movies or concepts in mind that they're trying to kind of model off of. And it's just falling a little bit flat. Like, I guess it's the writing, probably.
Yes. I think, well,
It is
maybe the
biggest.
direction a little bit too, but yeah.
It almost seems like they're trying to be Tarantino-esque or like take from some other movies that have a lot of like interactions between people that try to be existential, and those conversations just are not working.
They're trying to be a lot more clever than they are, is what it is. And yeah, so Brad Pitt in this scene also gives the counselor warnings about the business you're getting into, cryptic at first, then a little bit more explicit. Hey, remember that motorcycle guy from the first shot of the movie? He's back, and apparently he lives in like an airplane hangar. Who is this mysterious man? I mean, we get an answer in our next scene, which takes place in the women's prison, where the counselor meets with his client, Rosie Perez. Turns out the motorcycle guy is her son, and he got busted for going slightly over the speed limit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, like, 217 miles per hour or something insane?
206. And the counselor's reaction when he hears this is actually kind of funny.
206.
Yeah.
That's not a speed. That's somebody's weight or time of day.
This this accent that Rosie Perez is doing, I'm sure it's supposed to be Mexican, but because of her regular accent, there are times where it sounds more like Russian.
Yeah.
Really weird.
This is a kind of a strange scene, and I think it's impactful in the movie, but I mean, he seems to be her like counselor. This is the first
court appointed, he says.
Yeah, this is the first time we're seeing him actually acting as a lawyer. And he's trying to help her in her parole board appointment so that she can maybe get out of prison, right? But it really becomes more about her son.
Yes, she very much wants him out of jail, and the counselor agrees to pay the speeding fine. Even though when we saw him, he wasn't in jail, but whatever. We see this kid again shortly afterwards. He's making a deal of his own with an older guy, but what he doesn't realize is that he's being watched by two people who report back to Cameron Diaz. There's shenanigans happening here.
Yeah, so it seems like they are not all working on the same team. You would think that Cameron Diaz, whose partner seems to be Javier Bardem, you think they would be working together in this drug deal.
Oh, no, but hang on. In his conversation about women earlier, he basically tells the counselor, he's like, I'm out of my league here. She's, I can't control her.
More foreshadowing.
Oh, tons. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so she's definitely got something going in the background trying to get her hands on the money, and how we're going to find out soon that that's not going to turn out well for
everyone else.
Yeah,
literally everyone.
else, yeah.
The next time we see the counselor, he's having lunch with Penelope Cruz at like a polo grounds or something, when an old client spots him and approaches the table to warn her about what a dick the counselor is. Then it's time to head to confession with Cameron Diaz, only she isn't actually Catholic. She's pretty much like just there to fuck with the priest.
Yeah, she is literally just there for sport. She's there to have fun and F with the priest. There are a ton of sex conversations in this movie. It would be very hard to watch this with your parents.
I mean, yes.
Imagine walking out of the theater, that car ride home, and trying to have a conversation about what you just saw.
Be like when you and your dad saw Species 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. No good.
With what we did, the look straight ahead, don't look at each other thing, right?
Exactly,
yeah, that's definitely what we did on that one. But.
So yeah, she's just messing with this priest. Like, we get it, she's bad. But you might be asking yourself, is she bad enough to f a car? The answer is yes. And now you might be asking yourself, how does a woman f a car? She can't stick her dick in the gas tank or whatever. Well, as Javier Bardem explains, she climbed up on the windshield, did a full butterfly split. She used to be a dancer, see, and then basically grinded her on the windshield until she, and they show it. I mean, we don't see her, but she's up there in the windshield, all right. I kept waiting for her to ask him to turn the wipers on so they'd it. I'm serious, man. I thought that was good.
It was interesting. I think if you told someone that she was going to have sex with a car, you would picture a gear shift. right?
That makes so much more sense.
Right?
I went right to the wipers, but a gear shift makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think that's what you would picture. But the way they show it is she's in a small dress. She climbs up on the hood and pulls it up. And then, you get a shot from almost above where she is spread eagle on there. It's funny him telling the story of this happening to
oh my God,
Fassbender.
dude. Yeah, his description of this is haunting. What he said was,
it was like one of those catfish things. One of those bottom feeders you see going up the side of the aquarium, sucking his way up the glass.
God damn, man. What the fuck is going on in Cormac McCarthy's head?
And this blows up his, kind of will to have sex. He doesn't understand anymore. He's just kind of fucked up about it. He's still going to have sex, but he can't even drive that car anymore without picturing that on the windshield.
Well, and he said it wasn't particularly sexy. I think he referred to it as gynecological. He was just there shocked. But strangely, the most strange part of this, the counselor seems oddly unimpressed by this. In fact, pretty much the only thing he says is, does this have anything to do with the deal? I'm like, how do you not take more away from that story?
Well, even just to take away that this is clearly a power move for her, right? This is her showing her dominance over him, right, in this move. She didn't involve him in it at all. She wasn't even interested in him, helping or supporting or, any of his pleasure. She just fucked the windshield.
That's exactly right. I think,
Yeah, made him watch, a glass-bottom boat ride.
That's not the same thing. Similar. But all I could think about was what the fuck is going on in Cormac McCarthy's head. And speaking of heads, we get a short aside here where one of those guys Cameron Diaz sent to spy on the motorcyclist sets up a decapitation trap that severs the guy's head clean off. But as Rosie Perez jerks up out of her prison sleep, we learn that it was all a dream. Or not, as apparently this really did happen, but because she's his mom, she can just sense that he's dead.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. They were just, I think, trying to make the connection for the audience that there were going to be consequences for this happening, right? So it turns out that Cameron Diaz has devised a way to, kill Rosie Perez's son, who was in fact the one who was coordinating the drop-off of the drugs.
He was supposed to get the shipment or something.
Yeah, so he was supposed to be the one doing that for Fassbender et al., right?
Also, he goes by the handle, the Green Hornet, which has to be trademark infringement.
Yeah, that's strange. The people who decapitate him, the guy who does it, very thoughtful about making this trap. But what I don't understand is they set a trap across a road and then wait for a long time and nothing drives through.
Yeah, nothing drives by, yeah.
Right? If a single vehicle or anything came by, that would have shut down that trap.
Tractor trailer that snaps that wire right away. Yeah, I don't know.
No problem. It was interesting.
It's a movie. We're watching a movie.
We just have to let it go. Yeah, especially in a movie like this.
Well, either way, so much for that guy. Now, after a couple of quick scenes, one of the counselor talking to Penelope Cruz on the phone and one of that decapitator stealing a truck, Brad Pitt calls the counselor to tell him that they have a problem. He basically explains what happened with the motorcyclist and how he was actually working for their new business associates, that the shipment is missing, I guess that's what was in the truck, and that the business associates want answers. And the only thing they have is that that motorcyclist was a client of the counselor. So this has gone about as bad as possible.
Yeah, so he has, through happenstance, now been connected to the person who was murdered.
Because he paid the fine and got him out of jail. Ooh.
Yeah. The cartel not going to be happy about this, and neither is Rosie Perez. She also blames him for this, so things are not looking good for Fassbender right now.
Not just Fassbender, for everyone. Brad Pitt sure seems like he's going to cut and run, and he urges the counselor to do the same. So the counselor tosses his phone, then uses the fact that he's handsome to borrow a phone to call Penelope Cruz and tell her to get home and wait for him. Only, what are the chances that she would just answer some random number?
Now, none. Back in 2013, maybe a little bit more.
I don't think so. I think people were screening back then. Some random, she'd be like, who's this? No. But yeah, he gets a hold of her. And from there, we see that guy who set up the decapitation trap in his stolen truck getting pulled over by what looks like cops, but is actually members of the cartel. A brief shootout ensues, and as you would expect, the guy with the Uzi wins. So the cartel has reclaimed their shipment, and the counselor frantically tries to work out his next move with Javier Bardem. What they don't realize, though, is that Cameron Diaz is listening in on all of this.
She's bugged them.
Sure has.
And so she's kind of got the upper hand on all of this, right? She's been the one who's coordinated this killing. She knows that shit's going to go down. She knows the cartel is going to come after them. It's funny the depictions we get of the drug cartels in Hollywood. Like, there's a lot of good movies. I always wonder what they would feel about these depictions or whether they're truthful or not. I was like, it'd be kind of hilarious if these cartels were like, why do we keep getting depicted like these awful people? We're just trying to make a living.
I don't know, man. Read the news. I think they're probably
they're probably doing all this shit.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say anything bad about the fine folks that work for drug cartels. I don't want any.
You don't want any
trouble.
heat. Yeah.
Nope. Next, we get a scene where the counselor and Penelope Cruz debate the merits of Boise, Idaho. Specifically, they're looking for a place they can meet up because she's scared. The counselor is very apologetic, but he has really fucked things up. And what I wrote at the time was, if I were a betting man, I don't think he's going to be making it to Boise.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to unravel really, really quickly here. It actually felt strange how long it took for Fassbender and everyone else to get a move on. If this went down and you knew how serious it was, I think I would have been moving a little bit faster to get the fuck out of there.
Oh, I agree 100%. He takes his time, which is really strange. Now it's time for a state of the relationship talk with Cameron Diaz and Javier Bardem, which is really just an excuse to work in trailer bait dialogue like,
Greed really takes you to the edge, doesn't it?
That's not what greed does. That's what greed is.
and when the dust settles, she makes it clear that she will not be there when this shit goes bad. This scene is a prime example of, we talked about how this movie works so hard to seem better than it is.
Oh, yeah. It is all about trying to set up a clever ending and a finish that shows the true nature of humans, I think. And it's really not coming across well. I like that you called it trailer bait. There is a lot of those moments in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the trailer, but I have to assume that some of those lines are in it. So the next time we see Javier Bardem, he's out for a ride with his cheetahs when he spots a series of black SUVs approaching him from all directions. So not good. He tries to get away, but ends up running his car off the road and then getting shot in the ass cheek and brain. So he's dead. I guess there are now just 2 cheetahs on the loose.
Yeah, they just run out and go. This was kind of weird to me because I know that we'd had that scene earlier where Cameron Diaz had said that she's sort of cutting and running. She's not caring. But it really seemed like she cared more about those cheetahs than she did about him. I don't understand why she left them with him.
Maybe she didn't know it was going to happen right then, you know? But no, she really does love those cheetahs. The counselor, meanwhile, is spiraling here. He tries calling Brad Pitt, but no help there. And I must admit I was wrong, as he does, in fact, make it to Boise. It's Penelope Cruz who doesn't, as the cartel grabs her at the airport. So now the counselor is really in trouble, and he makes the only play he has left. He contacts a friend of his who works for the cartel and tries to cut a deal. And great news, it turns out they're actually very reasonable people who totally understand what happened. They agree to release Penelope Cruz, and the movie ends with her and the counselor getting married. No, I'm kidding. Actually, they cut her head off and make a snuff film of it.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Yeah, we get a whole bunch of scenes here where he even heads to Mexico, right, to try to barter this deal, and it's not going well.
No.
Not at all. And they're showing like sort of these gritty like breakdown moments for Fassbender. And yeah, Penelope Cruz gets her fucking head cut off after getting murdered and had sex with, I guess.
I didn't think about that last part, but maybe.
Well, that's the snuff film. And then this is...
Well, no, a snuff film can just be murder. I don't think a snuff film has to have sex also. Does it?
I think so. I think it is a like sex act and then murder.
No, I thought it was called a snuff film because you snuff out the person's life. Not that you necessarily rape them and then do that.
I thought there was a sex act.
If you are a manufacturer or viewer of snuff films and you're listening to this podcast, can you please contact us and let us know?
Yeah, just send a correction on Instagram. I'm sure that'll go over well.
But only the correction. Please don't send anything else.
Oh, God, no.
Nope.
So this is another one that was previewed. There was a conversation between Brad Pitt and Fassbender
about snuff films.
And you're just like... So now you know that each and every one of those conversations is leading to an eventual
It's all coming
death
true,
murder, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, we find out all this about Penelope Cruz later, though, after a couple more quick scenes. One where Cameron Diaz is still making moves, and one where John Leguizamo explains how the cartel smuggles dead bodies, or travelers, across the border as a way of making them disappear. This felt more than a little bit fillerish to me.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I guess they were showing that the drugs did make it to Chicago where they were intended originally, but the talk about the like dead body and then going to see it was strange. Like John Leguizamo is an entertaining like character actor.
Yeah,
great
actor,
right?
Yeah.
But it was a strange, didn't feel like it was necessary scene.
No, I mean, we could have found out the drugs made in Chicago by having someone tell Cameron Diaz the drugs made in Chicago. We didn't need to see that part. That
I
was
just
filler.
felt like it was less intended to be filler and more of like another jerk-off session for the writers. This is another one where they're Dutch ruddering and high-fiving each other.
It's Cormac McCarthy Dutch ruddering himself. It's just him.
It's just him?
Yeah, he's two-handing it. What does not feel like filler is our next scene, where the counselor gets a higher ranking cartel guy on the phone and again tries to plead for Penelope Cruz's life. The cartel guy quotes some poetry and explains that the events which the counselor himself set in motion cannot be undone. He also asks if the counselor loves her enough to trade places with her, and this is where we get the Michael Fassbender Oscar reel. Yes, damn you! He goes from 0 to 100 here. All of a sudden, he's crying and slobbering.
Oh, just so much crying through this section of the film.
Yeah.
It's just so awful. I really hated this part of the movie where it's just Fassbender. I mean, I guess this is more effective for the cartel than actually murdering him because they're torturing
Breaking
the
his
shit
spirit.
out of him. Yeah, breaking him down.
This was his fucking version of...
Michael Cutler is my boy.
He's so emotional. Yes, damn you, yes!
It definitely is. This is the Phantom of the Paradise shouting at the screen.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Well, none of this is going to do any good, though. They won't let him trade his life for hers. So why even ask? Why even ask if he's willing to do just to fuck with him?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, because I
Totally.
guess, as he's hanging up, the cartel guy also says he might take a nap later, which I think is like a subtle dig.
Oh, absolutely. We're learning definitely not to mess with the cartel in this movie.
Who would ever want to? Anyway, we're off to London next, which is where Brad Pitt has decided to hide out. But Cameron Diaz is 2 steps ahead of him as she sends Marjorie Tyrell from Game of Thrones to seduce and betray him. Also, his character is Canadian?
Well,
What?
I mean,
They threw that in there
well,
for.
I think he might have just had a Canadian passport. Like, I don't think that he was necessarily Canadian. I think
Right.
that was just one of the passports.
I fucking
that he
hope
had.
not.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't-
he'd certainly raise our national handsome index. That's a fucking statistic. That comes later, of course, the betrayal. But first, we see the counselor bottoming out. He's passed out in some shithole Mexican bar with a creased up picture of Penelope Cruz in his hand. And even though the bartender warns him not to go out into the streets at night, and I'm pretty sure we hear gunshots in the background, he's like, fuck it, and just wanders out there. And he does, in fact, make it back to his hotel. That journey didn't seem too dangerous.
Yeah, no, there were just some people staring at him, looking like they would have murdered him. He was at some weird, like, protest / like shrine thing he walks through. It's all just kind of trying to set mood for him falling apart here.
I guess so. Now, next, we get what is maybe the best scene in this movie. Brad Pitt leaves his hotel, blissfully unaware that the lady he banged last night has given Cameron Diaz all of his personal information. Like, literally all of it. Account number, social security number, password. How the hell did she get all of that? Do you have, like, written on a piece of paper in his wallet or something? Who tells a one-night stand their password?
I guess she's really convincing. What I was surprised was they didn't, like, talk about all of the sexual stuff they did.
Because Brad Pitt doesn't need to talk about it.
Yeah, I just felt like that's what would happen in this in the movie based on what's happened so far. But yeah, so she gets all of his information, so they don't really need him anymore.
No, they don't. And as he's walking down the street, a jogger approaching him from behind slips something over his head as he runs by. Turns out it's the famous bolito that Javier Bardem was talking about at the beginning of the movie, and it immediately begins tightening around his neck. It's like a fucking garrote wire that like tightens itself. This causes Brad Pitt to drop his briefcase, which another jogger heading the other direction picks up. Good timing there. And we spend the next minute or so watching Brad Pitt frantically try to fight this thing off, which we already know isn't possible. And sure enough, it severs his fingers, cuts into his neck, and he ends up sprawled out in a giant pool of his own blood. God damn.
As tons of people just sit there and watch.
To be fair, they're British,
They're
right?
British,
So it's like,
just watching it all go down.
I
Yeah.
say, what's around that gentleman's neck? Oh, you were sorry, old boy. Quite a bit of blood there. Oh. That's a terrible. I can't do a British accent.
Oh man,
I apologize.
it's funny
British
too because as soon as it happens, he knows what's happening, and then the next minute, as he's like trying to fight it but also dying, he just screams "fuck you."
Oh, he's very mad about
Fuck
it. Yeah.
you!
Well,
Fuck you!
He knows.
Fuck you!
He knows.
Like
He's
there's
been
nothing
had,
else he
yeah.
can do, so it's just a whole bunch of angry "fuck yous." Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what you would do in that last moment if you knew it was over.
I know what
but-
you do. You try to find the nearest fucking like pliers, wire cutters,
Yeah,
run
mechanic,
into,
and
run
then-
into
yeah.
a room. Where's the maintenance room? Something,
Yeah.
but like, don't just sit on the street just cursing and
Yeah.
watch your fingers get cut off. So Cameron Diaz has got her money. It looks like she's going to live happily ever after. But the counselor, not so much. This is when he gets a package delivered to his hotel room. And when he opens it up, he finds a DVD with the word "Hola" written on it. He knows what that means. It's the aforementioned snuff film. He doesn't watch it, but in case there was any doubt, we immediately see Penelope Cruz's headless body getting dumped in a landfill. Bad times.
Yeah, it's a weird. I thought that shot of the body getting dumped in the landfill was unnecessary. Like they had to show you that her body was there. I wondered if they had not done that in other cuts, and then people would watch it and been like, "So what happened to the woman?"
Well, this is kind of what you mentioned, Brian's response to the ending of this movie. At the end, which we're very close to, they kind of leave like certain things up in the air. And if maybe they hadn't done that, you'd be left with more questions than answers. Not that we aren't still left with more questions than answers, but whatever. We get one more Cheetah reference here, and it is a lengthy one. as Cameron Diaz meets her banker, pops a bottle of champagne, and fires off a monologue about the majesty of the cheetah and the elegance of how they kill.
The hunter has grace, beauty, a purity of heart to be found nowhere else. You can make no distinction between what they are and what they do. And what they do is kill.
They might as well just had a giant sign flashing behind her that says, "It's a metaphor. She's exactly like the cheetah." They're just beating you over the head with it.
Yeah.
Like, we get it. She's a predator.
It's not at all subtle. Like, not even close. And they spend a lot of time zoomed in on her cheetah tattoo as she's going through this diatribe. And you're like, well, here's the very, very clear message of the film. It was excessive. And she's going to walk off and I guess and be okay and get away with the money is kind of what they're suggesting.
Yep.
But we don't really know.
But we also don't really know what happens to the council. Like, we know the cartel's going to kill him, but like, we don't see it. The movie just ends right here. And it's like, well, what about the main character?
I don't even think they will kill him. Like, I think they've done what they wanted. They destroyed
they're
his
gonna kill
life. You think he's done?
Yes.
Why?
They don't like to leave loose ends.
What's he going to do? The guy's got
He
nothing
knows
left.
things.
Well, but they ruined his life, I guess. And wouldn't it be more like
Oh, to make him
cruel
suffer.
to make him
no.
suffer and leave him? But you just think it's easier to be like,
Well, he
no,
might
it's
kill
not.
himself. Like, you know,
Yeah,
if
well,
they,
maybe
if
that's
they
their
had
hope.
cut back to the hotel room when he's hanging from a fucking noose, I wouldn't have been surprised. So that's it, man. We're into the credits, and this just would have been a fucking terrible date movie. Oh my God. Just an awful choice. Oh, Brian.
Yeah, it has to be one of the possible like worst date movies you
Oh,
can
it's
think
tough,
of.
man.
Can
Yeah.
you think of worse movies to go on a date with someone?
Well, here's why I think this is especially bad. The car scene in particular, like, how do you deal with that? If you're a woman on that date with the man, you have to wonder at the very least whether or not he knew about that scene ahead of time, right? And then that opens the door to all kinds of other questions. Did he think I would like this? Does he want me to do this? And I'm 100% sure that for Brian, the answer to all three of those questions was no. But either way, that's got to be an awkward drive home.
And just the tone and mood of it is so vicious, right? Like,
Yes.
it's just so dark. It is not positive. You're not leaving that like hoping to have a like happy night together.
No.
Right? Like, that is sort of like we're just all gonna go home and reflect on how
Yeah.
horrible humans are.
We just saw like the most likable. Well, okay, that's actually a good question. Who do you think is the most likable character in this movie?
Probably Javier Bardem.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Right?
Penelope Cruz doesn't do anything wrong. She's very innocent, and seeing her headless corpse dumped into a thing is traumatic. But
Yeah.
yet the only person I felt bad for in this movie was Javier Bardem's character. Like, sure, he's into some bad shit, but I just thought that dude was really likable.
I think that's fair. I think there was no malice from him, right? Like he wasn't trying to. He was trying to obviously do things that were illegal, but like he just wanted to open fun clubs and have fun with people and have a fun life with people.
Yeah, we don't see him doing anything cruel to
no,
anyone.
there's no cruelty in him.
But at the same time, he knows. He's like, I can't. This woman's going to kill me. And she does. Like, that's what happens.
yeah, he knows that he's over his head for sure. Yeah.
Now, Fassbender, on the other hand, he just didn't do it for me here. Like, I don't think it was the accent, although that could have been a part of it. I don't know. I just wish his part had been played by someone else.
Yeah, I think that is a fair question. I'm wondering who would be better. Like when you ask that, I'm wondering.
Billy Zane. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, but here's a serious one. Here's a serious one. For the record, I would absolutely love to see Billy Zane, but no. A serious one. Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
I feel like Ben Affleck as the counselor could have conveyed more. I don't know.
I didn't take Fassbender as a like legit lawyer.
No.
Seriously. Like I never thought like because they tried to make it so that this is his first foray into something that was criminal. And in the whole time I was just sort of like, no, this guy is shady all along. Right? Like I never felt like he wasn't. And there was something about their relationship that I didn't buy as well.
Him and Penelope Cruz.
Yeah. I struggled with the way that looked. He felt like he was her bad boy rather than her love of her life kind
Well,
of
and
thing.
Javier Bardem talks about women like wanting to change men and whatever. Maybe she thought, she can bring him kind of back to the light or something. Or maybe he just lied to her so well that she actually, but she kind of knew. She knew he was up to something because when he calls her and tells her, she's like, how bad is it? So she must have known he was into some
She
shit.
knew he was
and
right,
that's
yeah.
why I didn't feel as bad for her as I felt for Javier Bardem. Guys said they're trying to live his life.
I mean,
Anyway.
I think I felt worse for the way that she ended than he ended, but getting
yeah.
shot in the ass and head is a lot quicker than being put into a snuff film.
They weren't even trying to kill him. They were like, take him alive.
They were supposed to, but
someone
yeah.
fucked up. I mean, they were going to take him alive to then kill him in a worse way, probably in a snuff film way, but so in a way, I guess it's a blessing, but either way. So it sounds like we should just get into our ratings now because we're basically running through stuff we liked and didn't like. So the way that we do our ratings, it's the same every time. We rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. We do it twice. 1 to 10 for how bad it is, 1 to 10 for how enjoyable it is. And the goal is to find movies that are 10 out of 10 bad, or what we call the Crit 20. And for me, this movie is pretty bad, but I don't quite have it as a 10. There's a little too much like technical craft in here for me to give it the full 10. There are some beautiful, beautiful shots in this, and cinematography is really great. The cast is obviously like full of strong actors. This is just a gross misappropriation of the amount of money and talent involved in this movie. Like someone fucked up. It was the script though. The script was just like too much for me, not just some of the ridiculous choices. Like the dialogue is fucking rough, man. So yeah, I've got it as a 9. It's bad. Like it's just so weird. And again, script turned me more than what it was. That's how I felt. What did you think?
Yeah, I think that those are good points. After watching it, definitely sat and reflected for a while, right? It was one of those movies that had you think, which, I mean, we're going to get into the other rating after. I always think that that's kind of good. But I agree in that, like, my biggest problems with it were how awesome or existential they tried to make it feel, right?
Yeah.
Like it almost felt like someone who was trying to punch above their weight in terms of content and intelligence. I liked the music and the scenery and the sound, and everything came off and was well edited and was really clean, like you said. And that's when you have, professionals in all of those spaces. This is clearly a major budget film. And so it's hard to be super critical of it. It really all came down to the writing for me, and it was a really big struggle. Some of the discussions of sexuality were like, I watched it alone, so it was fine.
Save your enjoyment rating for after.
Well, no, I would have been uncomfortable depending on who I watched it with. I could have seen people having difficulty with it. But in some ways, I also found it problematic that they're willing to be graphic in talk, but not in show. Right? Like it almost felt like one of those movies that this would have been a better movie if they were able to go NC-17.
I mean, they showed Cameron Diaz hump a car, dude. Like,
I guess so.
What are you looking for here?
I don't know, the catfish shot.
Oh, dude, come on.
I don't really want that, I guess, but I don't know. I felt weird. I felt it was slow at times too, and I also found there was no likable characters. Like there was other than Javier Bardem's character, everyone else there was no one to connect to. Right. Okay. And so that all kind of made me feel, I guess that's sort of a balance of both, but I had it as a 9 bad as well.
Well, there you go. We're totally in sync. Now, how enjoyable on a scale of 1 to 10 did you find it?
I don't like going first here. But that's okay.
I can go first if you want.
No, I don't mind going first.
We literally just said the opposite of that. You don't like going first here. Which one is it? I can go first if you want. Do you want me to go
all right,
first?
Let's do it, yeah.
I found this fairly entertaining. Like the fact that it's weird, it sort of drew me in that way. There's action. Again, the Bardem performance and some others. I think I'm going to watch this again. In fact, I have this as an 8 enjoyable. And I'm going to say this now. With less artsy dialogue, I think I would be at a 9. And if you had someone else in the Fassbender role, I think I might have this as a 10.
Holy
There's
shit.
something here, man. Honestly, like the whole time I was entertained the whole time. And part of it was the what the fuck is going on? And part of it was me laughing, imagining Brian on a date, just like sitting there awkwardly. But like, no, man, like this, like, there was a lot in this that I enjoyed very much. And so I'm at an 8, and with a less pretentious script, different actor in the lead role, I could be as high as a 10. I'm going to watch this again.
Wow.
That's me, man. What do you think?
Holy shit. So I do really like movies that are like intentionally taking directions that you wouldn't expect. And I like that part of this. I thought it did make me think. It did make me reflect after the movie about what had happened. I liked it had a pretty hot start, both like in bed and in the way that they introduced all of the characters. I liked how that went. A lot of the people in the roles, I really enjoyed the choices they made. So I think I might watch it again only because I would want to see if I recognize more hints that they dropped that I didn't see the first time, right? It's one of those movies where that might happen. Like you, I wish some of the conversations were a little bit faster, a little bit less like patting yourself on the back as a writer.
Yep.
But I had it down not too far from you. I had it as a 7 enjoy.
Well, there you go. Real close again. We've had a couple weeks this season where we're real close.
We're kind of on the same page here. It's funny because it definitely makes you uncomfortable. Some of the things are, I don't know. I just thought too laid out for you, the way that it felt. But it is definitely kind of movie that makes you want to watch through it. Now, would I want to take someone there on a date?
No, sir.
Absolutely not. This would not be my choice. I would rather go see Sweet November 10 out of 10 times.
God damn it. All right. But hey, you know what? For our podcast, great recommendation, great request. So thank you, Brian, for that. Really appreciate it. So before we talk about next week's movie, our last one of the season, what did you think about this beer?
I think it was good. I think I would.
Oh, that was a long pause.
I know. I've had this, and I think it's better when you eat it with food or you drink it with food. Like, I really, really liked it when I had it with Indian food. Right now, while we're podcasting, it's kind of hard to eat Indian.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
And I would have liked it better if I was consuming it there. I think I like the mango one more than the traditional.
Oh, God, I'm the exact opposite. Not a fan. I preferred the regular one, but I agree with what you're saying. I think better with food. As like a standalone beer, there's just better options out there. Perhaps if you're eating the food it was like designed to go with, something better, but I didn't dislike it.
No, it's not a bad beer, and I've enjoyed it when I've had it with food. I think it's probably one that cuts spice nice, right? Like when you have some hot food and you throw that in your mouth, it just cuts that burn on your tongue, and it's perfect. So if you are looking to eat some spicy food and want to find a beer that pairs well with it, Cheetah is definitely a recommendation.
Yeah, no, you know what? There you go. If you're gonna order some Indian food, don't hesitate to grab a Cheetah or two. Go for a pair like Javier Bardem and Cameron Diaz did. And, it'll cut that spice nicely. So that'll do it for The Counselor. But next week is our final episode of the season. And I got to tell you, we are watching just an absolute classic of an 80s movie that I believe that you have never seen. And we're going to correct that error next week. We are watching Roadhouse.
No, I have never seen Roadhouse. Who does it star?
Patrick Swayze.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
As legendary bar bouncer or Cooler Dalton.
So this is a movie about I assume the Roadhouse is a large bar with lots of good dancing and party and drinking, and he's the one who keeps that place working.
I think it's outside of Kansas City, Missouri. It's a little country-ish, but yeah, he's the one who steps in to straighten that place out. He's legendary Cooler. He's a huge name in the cooler world.
I'm excited for this. I didn't know that being a cooler or bouncer could lead to such fame, but I'm excited to see. I've heard that this is a very fun movie.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. We're going to have a great time with that, and hopefully everyone will join us and have a great time as well. That will be next week. Between now and then, if you have not already, please follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at the BMB Podcast.
If you have any comments, if you'd like to give us any feedback, or if you have any suggestions for movies and or beers, feel free to send them to those social media accounts or an email at thebmbpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we're starting to think about season 3, so, give us a request. We'll watch it for you. We'll give our thoughts. But that's going to do it for this week. I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
We'll see you next time on Bad Movies and Beer.
Keep it glassy.
Like the aquarium.
Like the windshield.
Idea. Sin is a choice.